You got this.
Welcome to Morning Space Chats, the Space Cats Happy Hour morning show coming to you live with sirens. I'm Zaddy Cat, and you are
Dread Pirate KK coming at you from Indiana.
and I'm coming at you from Toronto. And you can watch our Morning Space Chat video casts on Spotify, and you can listen to all of our episodes on Spotify, iTunes, or other podcast platforms. Our email is spacecatshappyhour@gmail for any questions, comments, anything you'd like to communicate with us about. And if you enjoy our podcasts and feel like sending us a tip, you can do so at Dread Pirate KK at PayPal. And if you feel like leaving us a nice review on iTunes, 5-star review, that will help us reach more people. Yeah, man. Okay, so coming to you in the new toilet. Lots of exciting things to talk about today. I'm going to talk about the Orion Wars a little bit. I think our Pirate KK is going to talk about maybe some Atlantis stuff. We've got a little bit more Mandela effects, got some news updates, and I got some witch tips to share. But yeah, just on the I'm on the other side of my new birthday and my new toilet, and it's really weird to have a new toilet because it's like between a ½ inch and an inch higher.
Nice.
So it's just very strange to adjust to, and we are getting a squatty potty for that, which we've wanted for a while.
Good.
But in prompt, we're like gonna get a squatty.
Yeah, I've been wanting one too, but I haven't gotten one. There's the company I bought my bidet attachments from, which let's normalize bidets here because the shit is amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, oh my God. But I think it's, what's it called? Tushy. Don't go to tushy.com. That's a different website. But I think it's tushy.co or something like that. And they have a little, I think they call it an ottoman or something. And I was like, oh, I need to get one of those, but I just haven't gotten one yet. So tell me how you like, because my family they installed the toilet here in my farmhouse, and both my grandmother and my mom need handicap toilets. So they're very tall.
Oh God.
And so when I go,
when I dangling, it's the worst. No grip.
It's actually really comfortable. I like the height, but when I go to other places, I'm like, oh my God, why is the toilet so low? But it's just normal. So I have like this, I feel like a fancy throne toilet. I'm just used to this like nice,
nice.
Anyway, so it's good that you have a taller one. It feels good to be up, not like falling over while you're sitting down.
That's true. Our older one was a little, it's true. I probably will end up preferring height. At first I was like, this is too high, but it's like that's the funny part. It's also just a hilarious, like we let this go on for a while, our old toilet issues. So like it had been months and months that we've been flushing, and you just kind of had this like not dread, but like feeling of like, am I gonna have to go and like do the thing every single time? And you just always had this like tentative little flush, like is it gonna work and stuff. Anyway, and just to like normally flush a toilet, it's like, what?
So nice. You don't have to think about it. Just works.
Flushing the toilet. Yeah,
it just works.
Pretty sweet birthday gift. I had some other nice birthday gift surprises come through. One of which was I had a ring with a little onyx scarab in it, and I had lost it. The scarab had fallen out of the setting last year, just around this time, actually, when I was traveling. And at the time I was like, just let it go. The energy of this is supposed to leave you, don't make a fuss. I was disappointed, but I really loved the ring, but I was like, just let it go. And then just like a few days ago, I was like, oh, I wonder if it's worth, well, first I actually replaced the stone with a stone of my own that I love. It's like a little crystal of green aventurine that I put in there. So now it does function as a ring again. I finally had that brainwave. I was like, I could put new energy in there. And then I was like, I wonder if I just asked them if they could I also sent an email. I was like, if they could send a replacement stone, and then they're like, we'll just send you a replacement ring because it's a French company and they operate differently.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
why don't we just replace it for you? I was like,
Of course. Yay. Happy birthday, Zeta
Thank
Cat Sun
you.
Portal.
Thank you. And then that we had a crystal store in our neighborhood that like completely closed during the pandemic, and I thought it was gone for good, and now it's open again. So I treated myself to a little excursion there, and a friend of mine had given me a crystal advent calendar a couple of Christmases ago, which was so much fun, but it was like missing one of the stones, which was pink calcite. So I'd had it, I was like, maybe I'll just get myself a little piece of pink calcite, and I'd had it in my head. And then I got to the store and they didn't have any pink calcite, but they had this gorgeous blue calcite.
Whoa, that's
and it
amazing.
turns out that that's like really exceptional
Whoa.
for artists and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to. It's so beautiful. I love it so much.
It is gorgeous. Oof.
And the price was a number sync.
Mm.
And anyway, I have like a thing where I'm always like, buy myself a lot of like really small ones, and it's like, no, I'm going to get this big one, big old chunk. Anyway, I love it. And then I was walking around the store, and they had an actual fossilized triceratops shoulder bone, which is
crazy.
The dinosaur that I feel like had the most lifetimes as for sale. I was like, oh my god,
that is
that was
another number sync.
$8,800. But that actually, I was like, that feels like really cheap for like a real dinosaur bone. I was like, $8,800 feels really like.
I mean, if it was just one,
like how many dinosaur bones are there to buy?
Oh, I thought it was expensive. Oh my bad.
I mean, it's expensive.
Yeah.
But like, it feels like, I don't know how many dinosaur bones have been excavated for you to be able to just go into it anyway.
Crystal shop and like buy it for yourself. Like, hey, here's a. I feel like that was maybe a blip for you. Like, maybe. I don't think that is a normal thing. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe in this timeline it's totally normal, but like that is because
it's like it's like a meter. Oh, it's like because it's a triceratops, right? So it's like a huge shoulder bone.
Small.
No, it's like this thing, and I was like, whoa. Anyway,
that's very magical. Interesting. That is super magical, especially 88. Oh, hello.
Yeah. In the 8 zone, the nice.
And if that was just your shoulder bone, it's like $8,800 for just your shoulder bone. It's like the whole body. Like, you are expensive.
You better believe I am one high quality, expensive triceratops man.
Space triceratops. Oh, it's July 13th, if anybody cares.
I forgot the date. Which is also, I feel like a new portal for us, the 13th. So.
Yep, the 13th is definitely our number.
We came to you on the 7th, and now coming to you on the 13th. And woo, the 7th was a ride.
That was
some energy. I don't know if other people felt this, but it was some very high flying, like,
yeah, I feel like that portal opens through 8/8 anyway, just like so that month, or like whatever 31 days or whatever it is, like that's already there. And then there's like mini portals like the 13th, and like whatever else is happening in this month.
Yes, and you just reminded me of the update about the necromancer's guild spell, but before we get to that, I just wanted to check in about what we're drinking and eating these days, because
I spilled my drink. Speaking of drinks, you bring it up, I'm like, spilled it all over myself. No, bitches brew.
Bitches brew.
Just drinking bitches brew.
What did you have? You had something the other day. I think.
What was I drinking?
I don't know.
Were we talking about
electrolytes? Oh no, it was because you bought the gluten-free cherry pie manifested.
Oh my god, so good. Oh my god. Yeah, I went to the farmer's market on Tuesday evening, and it was very small, one little sidewalk of stands. And I didn't really even shop. I just wanted to check because I'd heard that someone I used to work with at Earlham, the woman in the HR department who actually left before I left. So I knew her, but she definitely was gone before I left. So not very long. And I heard that she was now making gluten-free stuff and had been for like 7 years or something, and somehow got a stand at the farmer's market. Anyway, I just wanted to see if she was even there, because it's also on Saturdays. And I figured like maybe she goes to the bigger one on Saturdays. So I just checked and she was there, and she had 2 cherry pies left. And I was like, I will take one. And she remembered me. And I was like, oh my God, I felt so special. And anyway, so yeah, it was, I couldn't even tell if I had like so much gluten-free stuff that it starts to taste normal, or if it was just so good that it tasted like regular crust. Because there was a lot of cherries in it, obviously. Like it was the most delicious. I mean, I was very, very happy with this cherry tart. I was like, nom nom nom. But what I tasted most was the cherries instead of the crust. And I was like, dang, I couldn't tell if I was just used to it or if she just had done something to make it taste like exactly like a regular crust. So I'm gonna have to do some more taste tests. Oh darn, just see what else she has cooking. So she was telling me about her focaccia bread that she was very much she had perfected this according to her. She's like, you got to come early on Saturday, get here. And I was like, okay, yes. I'll put on pants for you. Like, get up early. I was like, why did I say that? Oh my God. She laughed. She was fun.
Yeah, delicious treats abound.
Yes.
My obsession right now is, okay, so I haven't quite perfected it yet because I found a place now that sells what I want, which is the pistachio milk, barista milk, which I'm sure is just going to be the most heavenly elixir. But I found the brand that I really like. So I've been using their almond milk, because my issue with non-dairy milks is that they always taste weird in coffees, and I haven't found one yet that I can't like discern and be like, ooh. Anyway, this one's very good. So I've been making the iced coffee, which the way I've always made iced coffee is with I use decaf instant coffee, and you just pour a tiny little bit of boiling water on it. And then my special trick is, in addition to like I use maple syrup, but I put in rose water. It's so good. If you don't like rose water, you won't like it. But if you're like me and you love rose water, it's
that
like
sounds amazing,
fucking good. And I can't even imagine with pistachio milk how well that will.
That sounds like elixir of the gods right there. I cannot wait till you make it and tell me if it's actually amazing, because I bet it is.
Excuse me. Sneezing onto the rabbit timeline. So I wanted to I'm introducing a new segment called Cancerian Witch Tips, as in honor of being Cancer Sun now. So that's one.
Segment.
Add some rose water to your homemade iced coffee. Number 2 is, okay, so I had a perfect breakfast this morning too. It was very Turkish. First of all, it had feta. If you're going to buy feta, never buy North American feta. Never buy cow's milk feta. Garbage feta. If you're like, feta's gross, that's why. It's because you've had garbage North American cow feta. It's like little chunks of rubber. You want to get sheep's milk, and more than goats even. So sheep is like the key to a really delicious, creamy, like light tasting feta. And Greek is fine. Bulgarian's like the ultimate, like,
I've never seen that for sale here.
Ideal. Okay. Yeah. It's harder to Greek is perfect too, but Bulgarian is like,
okay. Love
so
these tips.
On toast with peaches, because feta pairs super well with fruit, and also watermelon. A feta watermelon mint sandwich is really yummy. But it's this salad that is a very common Middle Eastern salad. They usually call it shepherd salad, and it's like the best summer salad, and it's so easy. So you get, ideally, farmer's market or organic cherry tomatoes. because cherry tomatoes in North America are going to best approximate a delicious Turkish tomato, which is like out of this world tasty. And then cucumber, and you want to take the peel off, and then you just like half or quarter the cherry tomatoes, and you dice the peeled cucumber. And I like to chop up white onion for a bit of crunch. If white onion's too intense for you, I would go with the long thin green onions with a little white bulb. People have different names for those. Yeah, whatever those are.
Leeks, I don't know. Yeah.
And then it's just olive oil, red wine vinegar, and salt, and you can add a little bit of pepper too. Depending on the day I do or I don't. It's like the most perfect bright little.
That sounds so good. Oh my god.
And then if you have it with feta on the side or on toast, some people you can sprinkle it on top too, but I just find that the salad in its pure form is already like so freaking delicious. And I had that whole breakfast this morning, and I was like, this is the best. That's my tip, is that breakfast. Salad.
Yeah.
My other tip is to rosemary essential oil in the scalp.
I've heard that's good for hair, yeah, but I haven't tried it.
Super good for scalp and hair. Also smells great, like woodsy.
Yeah.
Super relaxing, but it's also great for purifying if you've had like a big think dump, like you just like feel like your head was clogged up with a bunch of stressful thoughts and stuff. I find it's really good for that.
Good to know. Okay. Thanks, Zaddy Cat, the Cancerian witch tip segment. I love
Final one.
Oh, more.
Just one more. Because I've been going to the beach a lot. Get a Eddie Bauer, look for a sale. I think we got ours like 50% off, around $20. Waterproof beach blanket. It weighs nothing, and it comes with a huge strap, so you can either
That's so smart.
Yes, because you put it underneath everything and it minimizes all your sand, and you just have to anchor it down. And then it's like the towels go on top, and then you have a safe thing to like step onto and off of. It changes everything, and it weighs nothing, and it can fit in your beach bag, or you can sling it over your shoulder. It is life-changing if you go to the beach.
Okay.
Just like, reduce your freaking sand that comes home with you by like 90 to 95%.
That's such a good, I've never even heard of this. I'm so happy to know about it, because I will take some life-changing tips. Thank you.
Because with the whole neurodivergent thing, like anything that creates obstacles at the beach. So I was getting really frustrated at the beach with the amount of stuff and like changes in footwear and all this thing. So I had to really like streamline my routine and stuff. And that was one of the keys. And now I have like a system because we're doing lake swimming, so water shoes are just necessary because it's so pebbly and rocky. But switching out of the water shoes and into whatever you bought without like endlessly trying to like run back and forth and rinse your feet off, but then not anyway. I got it down now. The beach
you are awesome.
Everything.
I love that. Good. Okay. Thanks for figuring that out for us. I know that was a lot of work.
Thank you. When I was swimming the other day, I felt so conspicuous because in my section of the beach, nobody was swimming. There weren't a lot of people on the beach, and then no one was in the water but me. But so the lifeguard was just standing like 20 feet away, like right on shore, just staring only at me. And I was like, does she think I'm like a terrible swimmer? But anyway, that's just what she had to do. But it was just like so like
you are under the microscope.
The way I like to swim too is just like wade around and then kind of flail a bit and then like go in and out and just kind of like, anyway, it's not particular. It doesn't really look like I'm a great swimmer, or I don't know. I look like a bit of a clown, and I just normally just do my thing. But anyway, I did it under her very watchful and attentive eye, and I felt incredibly safe.
You're very safe.
In my up to chest level water that I was in.
That's
incredible. Swimming, enjoying the swimming.
Yeah. Allie invited me to go swimming yesterday, but I had just gotten out of the shower and I was like already kind of grumpy from the day, like a little bit unexpected errand, walking lots and hot, no food. I was like, okay, I'm not going to go swimming today, but thank you. I would maybe go another day.
You had a real Paddington Bear day yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, another tip from Taskmaster, which I've talked about in past episodes, the UK TV show where they assign comedians any number of infuriating and hilarious tasks. My new like spin on things is, if I'm going through something unpleasant, I just say worst Taskmaster task ever.
There you go.
And
I like that.
It makes me laugh.
There you go. I like that a lot. It's good to have these reframing things because that is the key to getting through so much of this stuff.
I was at the beach on the weekend with Mike, and he took a little stick to pick up a bag of dog poop and take it over. And it was like precariously balanced on the edge of the stick.
That's a Taskmaster
and I shouted
task.
I was like, worst Taskmaster task ever.
Does he watch it with you, or does he know?
Yeah.
Okay.
He is dick deep in Taskmaster with me right now. Like, he even started listening to the podcast and I was like, whoa. But that's because he can't listen to his basketball podcast right now because the Raptors are in they've gone into a terrible, terrible vortex. So
oh no,
it makes him too depressed.
Disappointing. That's so disappointing.
Oh, he loves to play out his Raptors drama, and just I'm like, oh, I can't.
Okay, whatever.
Raptors' poor trade decisions.
Oh my
like
God.
How depressed it's making me.
Oh,
which also reminds me, because you have your female cat that blipped back into your property for a hot moment, and we discovered her name is Morgana. Apparently, the contestant on Taskmaster after 15 seasons with the most points ever, her name is Morgana, and I'm watching
what
right now. Yeah,
the hell?
Yeah, she's like the queen of Taskmaster. So
interesting. Okay, I love this Morgana energy coming around us. King Arthur is back, man. I don't know. I spent so much time in that in those books and tales and all the other things that I could get my hands on, and when I was younger, and then not forgot about it, but just kind of like drifted away from it, or I don't know, just the magic didn't seem to be there for a while in my middle years, and now I'm like, oh, there's something, I don't know what's happening, but there's something coming back with that, especially now that we've got a Morgana in a cat form and in Taskmaster form. So we'll see.
Okay, so before we move on to our main segments, just a quick word from our sponsors.
Oh, sponsors.
Today's sponsor is Pixie Dust.
Okay.
Pixie Dust is the new party drug for a wild night out. This glittery golden powder is made from all the best bits of Pixieland. Unicorn horns, disco toadstools, goblin sneezes, rainbow bugs, and slutty snail slime. All ground up and ready to sip, snort, or slather all over your body. Pixie Dust is 100% angel tested and certified. Side effects include shenanigans, adventures, giggles, and treats. So before you leave the house, ask the pixies to blow some up your crevices and let the mischief and magic unfold.
Okay, that might be my favorite one ever. So, they've all been so good, but I don't know, this one was pretty fucking hilarious.
They're not joking. You should,
I can feel it. Yeah.
If you want a fun night out, they are asking you to do that. And before you send the pixies emails via us, they want you to know that unicorns periodically shed their horns. So these are discarded unicorn horns. They're not. There's no animal cruelty.
Chopping up. Can you imagine? Oh my God. That's horrifying. Oh my God, but also hilarious. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Pixies are very pro
Party.
Party. Party, party, party.
I like the shenanigans side effects. That's really, really good.
Yeah, I
That's
was
my
like,
jam.
all right, I will
Take it.
ask you next time for sure.
Thanks, Pixies. Thank you so much. We love you. Wait, what's the update from the Necromancer Guild sponsor?
Yes.
I know.
Okay. So let me find my email where I wrote it out. That's not it. Oh, there it is. Wait, no. It was okay. As I'm doing this, I could do two things at once.
Okay.
Oh, I sent it to myself. That's out. So
Good job.
Last episode, 777 portal, I channeled a very beneficial spell from the Necromancer's Guild. And there was a part where they just wanted me to channel, I don't know what languages it was. It's come through for me before, a similar language. It's like a seems to be very still human based, but it's like pan-human, where I'll channel the words and they'll come out. And then later on, I'll be like, oh, I can look those up. And then it turns out they're real words in other languages that mean things.
So cool.
Yes. So the first time I did that was a few years ago, and it was very cool. But like some of them were like, they were like from all over the place, and I really had to hunt. And this time it was very easy. It was like,
okay.
And occasionally, what's very interesting is there will be a word where I'm like, that's not actually what that word means, I don't think. But Google Translate or another translator will just tell me. And they're like, this is what it means. And I'm like, okay, this is the actual, like, they'll just tell me a meaning in a very like extremely magical way where it's like, no, you're not going to, if you look anywhere else, it's not going to tell you this. All right. Yeah. So the first thing was ouro bo, which means good gold in Portuguese.
Okay.
Teo, which means divine gift in Spanish from the ancient Greek word for God.
Ooh.
Timagico is how it came out. It means magical you in Italian. It's probably not pronounced that way in Italian, but I could tell how it was spelled, so I put it in.
Yeah.
Le amanti means the lovers in Italian. De auro, golden in Portuguese. Te imano meant I love you. And that was the one I was like, no, I don't think
probably
it said it was Spanish or something. I'm like, no, it doesn't. Yeah. But
it's magical. That's what it meant. That's what it means. Yep.
Onto, it's like Greek word element, means a being existence, to be.
Okay.
But then also it showed up in an ancient Greek online translator as meaning music, which again, I was like, I don't think anyone else is going to tell you that onto means music.
Yeah.
But I was like, cool.
Definitely.
And then de onto was from onto. So being from being, or music from music. And then the last word was Pluto, which I was like, that means Pluto. So it was like good gold, divine gift God, magical you, the lovers golden, I love you. Being from being or music from music, Pluto.
That's so fucking cool, dude. Oh my god. Well, interesting, because Pluto is the one everybody's talking about right now with the retrograde back into Capricorn, but we're going into the Pluto age of Aquarius. So for the next 20 some years or whatever.
Right.
So I feel like that's bringing some good stuff.
And I feel like it makes sense, like Pluto would be connected to necromancy as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
So a Plutonian spell is what
Love that. I got chills when you were talking about the feels. That was definitely vibrating something while you were talking in me, which sounds a little dirty, but I don't care. It was really nice.
Yeah, it was fun.
Awesome update.
Do you want to share anything from the Atlantis stuff? Do you feel?
Yeah. Okay. I took a couple notes just in case I forgot, because I'm at this point, like, I know what's going to come out is going to come out or whatever, but like my little Virgo stellium was like, take notes so you're prepared. So I've been getting Africa sync, like Instagram thinks that I'm in Africa and I can't, I obviously there's a reason, like I'm supposed to be paying attention to something about Africa, whatever. And I've never gotten Africa syncs before. So this is very new for me. And then a couple days ago, somebody posted in the space weather chat room that I'm in this video of, I had to look up his name, Jimmy Corsetti, which he apparently has like 1 million followers on YouTube. So people know who he is, but I had never heard of him. So anyway, he had this video about Atlantis and specifically the capital city of Atlantis, because we all know that Atlantis was not just one place. It was multiple, kingdoms and sites and all that stuff. But the capital where, King Atlas, like the first king of Atlantis was Atlas. Anyway, he has this video, Jimmy, whatever, has this video where there's the eye of the Sahara. And it's this like concentric circles, basically. And it looks exactly like the images we have of the capital city of Atlantis with the concentric circles with like land and water and then land and water again. There's like that, and then the big towers and anyway, so it looks exactly like that, but just eroded. And I already knew that the Sahara had been in the past like a lush green, tropical place. And then whatever climate change happened, and now it's like the desert. So he brought that up as well. And there were just certain points that he had that it just made a lot of sense to me that would be where the capital of Atlantis was. And a lot of the stuff that we know about Atlantis comes from Plato, who learned about it from his ancestor like 200 years prior, called Solon, I think his name was, which just sounds so Lord of the Rings. It's hilarious. But anyway, Solon had discovered, he was like a lawmaker in Greece and poet and whatever. And he had discovered that something had happened 9,000 years ago from him, in this, which would be 11,600 years from where we are today, which is exactly when the Younger Dryad period happened, or Dryas, or whatever you say, period happened, where there's this big, crazy geological event that scientists know about, but can't really explain. Or anyway, so we all know that this is a major fucking thing. So this is this is the stuff that we know about Atlantis. And so a couple of the things that made it compelling to me as far as an argument for the capital to be there was, one, the shape of the whole thing that looks exactly, like it. And then two, there's a mountain range called the Atlas Mountains, which I didn't, again, my education probably not the best, where, like I had no idea there was an Atlas mountain range in Northern Africa called the Atlas Mountains. And so that makes sense that it would be anyway. So that was really compelling for me as well. And then there's this huge amount of water erosion evidence that you can literally see from space in that area. And something about, there's like salt deposits there as well. It looks like there had been ocean water there at some time, and it evaporated and left like all these salt piles that they still mine to this day, and indicating that there was an ocean there. And there's a volcano in that same area that erupted 12,000 years ago and had lava flow, evidence, whatever, but the water erosion goes over that lava flow. So it had to have happened after 12,000 years. So about like 11,600 years would be about the time that a conceivably accurate time for it to have gone, like this big tsunami or whatever, to have gone through the area. There's also evidence that scientists have talked about. There's like a undersea mudslide or landslide or something off the coast of Mauritania, and which I think is called Maghreb or something now. But anyway, and so it looks like that would have, they call it, they think that it happened because of a tsunami type event. And so it's clear that all this water has just flown through the area or whatever. The other thing, Plato said something about Atlantis sinking beneath the waves, which everybody has interpreted, or not everybody, but a lot of people have interpreted it to be like this island that just kind of sank beneath the waves. But he didn't say sank beneath the ocean. He said it was underwater and no longer navigable by boat. And he talked about like reedy marshlands or something, kind of like on a coastal region, which you were getting sinks about like crazy last year. We were getting so many marshland sinks and we couldn't figure out like what that was all about. So it maybe this was having something to do with it, but at least it made me think about that as far as another synchronicity about stuff that we'd already talked about. And so if it was on the coast like that with the reedy, like the waves coming through and the water washing everything away and like being near the Atlantic coast, like that would be another probable thing that this is where Atlantis capital was. What else was there? Oh yeah, the other thing was that Plato described it as constantly busy, like 24/7, like visitors from all over the world, like multiple languages, multiple cultures, like constant trading and all the things, and visit, like you could get there by river. And there's a whole bunch of evidence of riverbeds in the Sahara near that area, obviously dried up right now because it's a fucking desert, but like, there's still evidence of riverbeds. So it could have been, but does it make sense that people would be visiting in that amount of numbers, like millions and millions of people visiting an area? Like, would you go to an island where you had to cross a dangerous sea and get to this place in the middle of the island to do all this trading? Or would you go via land and river much more easily just to the the coast of Africa? Like it totally makes, especially because it was this lush tropical place with all the spices and fruits and sea life. There's evidence of mollusk shells and all the kinds of things everywhere up there. So anyway, he did point out some options, like people could argue that doesn't make sense because now the Eye of the Sahara is about 1,200 feet above sea level, but so how could it be like along the coast or whatever? But we all know like geological changes happen over the ages. And also if this was incredibly like a weird, whatever happened, could have done all kinds of things to the earth crust. But he also mentioned that there was a huge North American ice, like glacier, like cover of around that time. And when it melts, there's this, it's not a phenomenon, it's just like a scientific thing that's known. When the ice melts off of a continent, it releases the weight of the ice, so the crust in certain places of the earth can rise, as well as like the water does cover up. Like there are islands off the coast of Africa that like I forget what they're called. Anyway, some islands have been like covered up by water because obviously if you have a lot more water, the sea levels are going to rise, but also the crust itself could rise. So he wasn't sure, like we're not scientists here. We're not sure like what actually is possible or whatever, but it is feasible that is a thing that happened.
Wow.
Anyway, so those were some of the main points. I feel like that's probably enough to like, I don't want to look at my notes or anything I don't want to confuse myself, but it's about, I think I got everything. Anyway, so yeah, that was my little Atlantis update where it makes total sense to me that it would have been in that area, especially because I'd already been getting Africa sinks, and there's you get these messages, the universe gives them to you as as you need to uncover the information. So it makes sense to me that I would need to know that for like putting together my own mental map of what the fuck is going on.
Yes.
Because we're all trying to figure out stuff about Atlantis. So that was my little update.
Fascinating. It's so interesting because the whole Atlas thing, I was getting Atlas things forever and I was just connecting it to like the mythology, and I never made any connection between it and Atlantis and the first king. I had no idea. So that makes that brings some
He was
stuff
the first. Atlas was the oldest son of Poseidon, and he was the king of Atlantis or whatever, in case anybody didn't know that, which I was
no
like,
idea.
I feel like I sort of knew that, but I kind of don't know that I did. Like it was weird because the information felt familiar, but like at the same time I was like, did I actually know this, or is it just like coming up from the soup? But anyway, yeah.
Well, it's super interesting. Because we got to talking and I was just feeling like connected to multiple Atlantis time streams, which was what my whole, there's the episode where I talked about my Atlantis journey, which was like this specific Atlantis time stream where it was a very mystical Atlantis realm that was in the sky, and very a lot of feminine energy, and successfully did the leap, and was coming back to gather some of the few time streams where the leap didn't occur successfully, and help like bridge that. But also that we were talking about how like there's like multiple Atlantis energy sites. So like for me, all of my dreams and visions of Atlantis have always been very connected to English and like ancient Roman landscapes and archaeology and stuff. And so, which makes sense because the UK is also an island and very has a lot of that. Anyway, a dream I had ages ago was like the tidal wave hitting like some version of like a English type sea town that had the huge stone wall along the edge of it, and the tidal wave was like so much taller than the wall. And then you're also talking about Japan as well as another Atlantis site, like holding the energy of another Atlantis time stream, and how their nuclear event in, was it 2011? Anyway, that had like,
I can't remember,
tidal wave flooding stuff, was like a reenactment of the Atlantis movie. So it's very, very interesting.
Well, all of that is absolutely tied into what you were talking about, which is why I was so excited to tell you about it. And then I was watching another Mandela Effect video series or whatever, where the guy went into specifically Atlantis stuff, like Atlantis history. And he talked about how there were possibly islands that couldn't move, like they could teleport, like in Lost when the island would teleport away and go to a different place, and they were like, what the fuck is happening? It was kind of like that. And they could float, like they could act as ships, and they might be still timeline hopping to avoid that cataclysm timeline, and then eventually settle back down here, as far as like, oh, they were always here kind of thing. So I'm not super clear on that, but like I'm diving more into it, because this whole video series, there's a lot of videos, and it's really fascinating and helpful. And definitely, the timeline wars and technologies that were like the time traveling technologies that were abused in a way that like collapsed reality as we know it, because linear time no longer made sense. Like you could, the Mandela effects in Atlantis, by the time, all this time traveling stuff had been really ravaged, as far as like everybody was doing it and like shit was happening. So the Mandela effects were like off the fucking hook. Like you could be born and then die of an old age in like one day, because like the timelines were so fucked up, and like time would move backwards. So linear time, which we relied on to play this Earth game, couldn't be relied on anymore. So like linear time just, it was like a blue screen error. Like it was like, and just blipped out. And so there was this void space where everything just kind of like, I don't know what even happened. And so some of our soul shards have been like rescued to like timeline fallout shelter type places where they're out of the void, but like still in these shelters. And that's what we've been doing, is like getting them out, like pulling them back out of these, fixing the timelines and repairing this and blah, 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 all the, anyway, it just, all of it's sort of starting to make sense. But again, it's kind of percolating at the same time, but it totally ties into what you were saying about how there is a timeline where the ascension happened and everything is fine. And then we're coming back and
well, what my dream was that my vision journey was that there were many. It was the most of the timelines did the leap. Yeah. And the ones that didn't, that was also like a necessary part of the spectrum of experience.
Yeah, I think so too.
And yeah, so it's like it's the minority ones that were the ones that didn't make that leap at that time.
That feels right to me. Yeah. That feels right.
So super interesting, because National Geographic just sent in its like email updates that it sent. It was one that was like, what's the next world going to look like in 250 million years? And where there's like a new ocean and it's a new type of Pangea. It's like what's I was not too into this. So it's like very interesting shape, kind of like a horseshoe, but it also kind of looks like an animal galloping.
Oh, interesting.
And Antarctica has come up to fuse with the eastern coast of South America, and then Africa has fused with North America.
Okay.
And then South Africa like goes down and is fused with the top of South America. And then Europe, like if you keep going east, then you get Europe. It's like pushed over. So Africa comes up and like pushes Europe further east. So it's connected by land, all one giant landmass connected by land to both Africa and then Asia.
So cool.
And then Asia comes down around and connects down to Australia. And then the Atlantic Ocean is teeny, and it's just like in the middle of the horseshoe part between Antarctica and the south of like Africa and Asia and Australia goes around. So it's really trippy. And New Zealand is still off on its own.
On its own.
New Zealand's like maybe even further removed.
Well, there's a whole Zealandia continent that has been just like recently discovered or whatever. Like it's under the ocean. It's anyway, I don't know. There's a whole other, and that area of the world is the antipode, like the exact opposite point of the earth of where the Eye of the Sahara is. So there's something that's connecting those areas, because antipodes always, not always, but we think that antipode areas of the earth affect each other. So like if there's an earthquake in one place, it affects the antipode, the exact opposite latitude, longitude, whatever point on the earth. And it makes sense to me because I didn't realize that they had proposed this new Pangea in like whatever million amount of years. But when you said that, I was like, I'd already been feeling like if we're supposed to be one humanity, which we are, I feel like the earth is just kind of experimenting with, now it's separate in a lot of ways. And we're going to be coming back together in like literal way, like landmass ways or something like that. It makes sense to me. The other thing I want to say before
literally collapse.
They literally don't exist. Yeah, exactly. And the other thing I wanted to say before I forgot about this video that I watched with Atlantis, there is a map made by Herodotus that has Atlantis literally written. It's like Atlanti or something. So it's Latin or whatever, but it's like written on the northwestern part of Africa, like right where the Sahara is. And it's like, I mean, yeah, you can say whatever you want about that's a stretch or whatever, which is fine. But I'm just saying all these very compelling things are.
Who's Herodotus again?
He was a Greek historian.
Okay.
And it was interesting because like, I think he was saying some people, what I've always said it as Herodotus, but like he was pronouncing it Herodotus. So I don't know if I've been pronouncing it wrong or if it's Herodotus. So I don't fucking know. But he wrote like, I can't remember. It's like a famous tome work, like a big, if you read the history of Herodotus, it's like you are really a nerd because it's really dense and really like, so I have not actually read it. I've always wanted to be that awesome of a nerd, but I have not been able to dive into that. So anyway, yeah.
Oh, very good. Okay.
Last point on that, and then I'm done. Yay.
Also, England is like pretty much the North Pole in.
Oh, really?
It's like at the north
Where
end.
The hell did Iceland and the Norwegian?
They don't show you. It just says Europe, but for some reason there's a few cities in London and Rome and Cairo, and they show some new mountain ranges, which is like
that's cool.
Australia connected to China and Japan, and and between Antarctica and South America, and then a huge new mountain range between where Africa snooshes into North America.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really trippy. But
I
yeah, like
that.
England is like the northernmost part. And I mean, Antarctica is totally like, you know, like part of Antarctica is super close to the equator now. It's so interesting, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because that used to be a jungle too. So that's just fascinating.
Yeah.
I think the Earth is creating new land masses and bringing together current existing ones. And it's all going to be completely different. And it's really exciting.
Yeah, it's fascinating too.
And maybe the lost islands of Atlantis come back from whatever dimension they're in right now. They come back and they're like, we just discovered this island we've never seen before. And it's like Wakanda or something.
Yeah. There was also, I was just trying to feel in before, because I was like, okay, the Sahara, England and Japan. I was like, is there another place that's come up? And Antarctica did come up as having holding some kind of energy connection to Atlantis that was coming through. But
well, the guy that I just watched this video last night, and he was saying that the Sahara, like the tsunami that took out the capital of Atlantis, was the third cataclysm, and the one that everybody talks about. But the first one happened in Antarctica, and it involved something with Maldek or something, or maybe that was the second one. But yeah, it definitely holds an energy of the first cataclysm of Atlantis era.
So interesting. The other thing I wanted to, because it ties into stuff that I had to talk about today, which is the marshlands.
Sorry.
Oh, no.
I just was like trying to make sure I got this right. The first one was in Antarctica. I think the second one was the Eye of the Sahara, and the third and final one was the Bermuda Triangle. But we're not going to get into that today because I don't understand the timing of that yet. Anyway, continue.
Okay. Bermuda Triangle. Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay. Yeah, so cool. The marshland stuff.
Marshlands.
So marshlands, I know that in current external reality, what I hear about them is that they are key to the future of like, you know, a really important ecosystem that's gonna help with climate stuff and like, I don't know, preserving biodiversity and stuff. And it's like marshlands are super key. I don't think they're the only key one, but I hear that a lot about marshlands. Very, very key ecosystem. But energetically, I think I've talked about this before, but they always are associated for me galactically with the Orion light energy, which is the post Orion Wars, when they were like, oh, we're all the same, like there's no difference between us, that kind of thing.
Stuff, yeah.
So people who hold a lot of that energy often have froggy appearances, probably other things too, but appearances of creatures that live around marshes and like hold that energy. And I don't know why, but the Orion message wanted to come through again today. I might be repeating myself from another podcast, but it was just really talking about how they came to end the Orion Wars. And I don't know if this is because another wave of people are going to start experiencing this, but it was those who were playing the role of the oppressors, and on both sides, and those who were playing the role of the oppressed, and like or the rebels or whatever, like if you're thinking about Star Wars, they both started remembering lives they'd had as in the other role. So they remembered other lives that they'd had, and then if it was the same. It was like the same thing when they showed me like how the mouse turns into the owl is by the owl killing and eating the mouse. And then, so it was like, if somebody was killed by one of the oppressors, they would then incarnate as the people playing the oppressor role, but then they would remember being the other ones. And that's how they were able to break down the illusion that they were on different sides or that they were in any way separate or distinct from each other. And it was, so that I think originally they showed it to me from the perspective more of those who were being like killed or imprisoned or whatever. But now it's been showing me more from the other side too, which I think was like maybe a little bit more challenging for them to access those, because it felt like it was a little bit more challenging for them to access those memories of their other lives. And I'm just going to take a second to see if they want to send anything through about how it happened. Because it was very clear. It was like, it would happen like someone would die and then incarnate. Oh yeah, that too, dying and incarnating as one and then remembering. But that wasn't the only way. I think it was just a very, anyway, it's not showing me clearly, but interesting like bi-directional thing about going through that process. And so, and that's exactly like what my entire awakening journey was just seeing like all these other lifetimes and how I had played all the roles and stuff. It was like very much that exact pathway of like, oh,
yeah,
I've been that tyrant. I've been whatever, this, very powerless person and stuff. I'm just trying to get out of my mental space in case something else wants to come through, because it was like really pushing me to like talk about this.
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe if you want to say anything, we'll talk.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that wants to come through again today, because I think you're right. That feels like that wave is building for people, and in a bigger way even than it happened for us. Like this will be okay. What popped into my head to share was a friend of mine has just recently gone through like basically a spontaneous, like very intense Kundalini awakening. And he remembered like all of it. He was not into any of this stuff. Like he has friends who talk about aliens and do the channeling and stuff, and he's not like against it or anything. He just is like, okay, that's for them. I'm doing my own regular 3D life, whatever. And then all of a fucking sudden he remembers a past life he has in Egypt and is like sweating and like purging, like, just all this. And it was so, he could not believe it, because it was so visceral and he was not into this before. And so it was just very interesting that it happened to him, because I feel like what you're talking about right now is maybe going to start happening to other people who just really weren't into this. They weren't necessarily closed off to it, but they were just like, okay, you weirdos, like, I love you, but not for me. And then now all of a sudden, oh yeah, it's for you too. And you're going to remember. So people are probably going to start remembering, past lives where they were in this. That's what we're playing out right now, is the Orion Wars stuff. It's like one against the other, instead of being like, we're all the fucking same, we're all sparks of God, we're all one humanity. And this other stuff has been imposed on us by an outside race of aliens who are trying to harvest our, fear-based energies. And it's like, we don't have to play that game anymore. We can recognize that we are all on the same path, and that we all have played all.
It's been imposed on us by ourselves.
Well, yeah. But like, as far as how those stages are going to go, I think that it's probably going to be, we're going to be able to not blame, but like put it on, be like, okay, this is the context. Like this matrix has been, it's been imposed on Earth, whatever. However, as we zoom out, it's going to be like, oh, right, we also have, that's a bigger game that we're playing. But I think the first stage is going to be like remembering how we've all played different stuff in past lives, like you were saying. Which is why I think the stuff like disclosure happens first. It's like stage, like we've zoomed out so far that we're like, okay, we already get it from like multiple perspectives, but there are going to be people who are like needing it to be, oh yeah, these aliens did this and this, blah, 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 whatever. And it happens in those stages. For some people, maybe other people will just immediately also zoom back out again and it'll be fine. But like, I think it'll be different stages. I don't know, maybe not, maybe it'll be even faster than that. I don't know. Because with this galactic history that we're all learning and we're all talking about, it's getting easier and easier to zoom out and be like, oh yeah, this is a game within a game within a game. And like, we're all literally playing it with ourselves. And we, you know, even the false matrix, we did impose this on ourselves because we wanted to experience it at some fucking level, you know. Anyway, I don't know why I keep talking because I think we all get what I'm saying. But
yeah, I think that's what, so they were like, the Orion Wars are just another story.
mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like, I think that's the message. It's like, that wanted to come through
Mm-hmm.
was, the Orion Wars was just another story, and that's the key that to the games, because let me see. It's
like wanting different challenges and
yeah,
not imposing. That's a different word. I don't want to use that.
It's
anymore.
I think I'm just feeling hesitancy because it's a really strong, assertive, like,
okay, gotcha.
Not
okay.
Syrian message that wants to come through, and I have trouble saying those. But it's basically like, you can fall into, okay, so to get like the game or the story or whatever that we're playing, they're like, don't, they're like, you can bypass, there's a thing that can open, which is like being like a warrior of light in the galactic whatever. And they're like, bypass that if you can. Like, even if you want to play in it for a while, or it's helpful to play in it to clear through, like, keep the perspective that the Orion Wars themselves were a game and a story, and we don't need warriors of light. We don't like because there's nobody to fight.
Blood cells. Yeah. We're just white blood cells clearing out infection and stuff, or balancing stuff. And
what was the other thing? There was something else, and then I forgot it. That was when you were talking about this extremely fast way, that's a very intense way of happening. And I was trying to remember how it actually happened for me, because it was a bit less, like, I wasn't having like ultra vivid memories that shook me to my core.
I don't have those either.
Yeah, I was just seeing how everyone in my life who played a different role was showing me roles that I played in other lives, and I would see those past lives, and I would tap into them sometimes and feel like the energy of them, like when I tapped into lives where I was like holding a lot of like psychopathic, very intense like energy, and feel what that felt like in my body, to hold that, and other stuff. But it was a little bit more like just seeing I don't know why this message wants to come through so strongly, but they're just like, watch out for the trap of like the Galactic Wars stories and stuff, and
Yeah.
getting sucked into some other thing where you're just like, I'm on this side of it, so this people on this,
Yeah.
like these whatever, and it just gets bigger and bigger, but it's like the same story of being on the other side. They're just wanting to say that. I don't know. Wanted to come through today.
That's really good. That's really good. Well, I think that's what's going to happen. Like we need to move past this story, or like looping in that story. Like, I think we sort of cleared out a big layer of that by sort of, I mean, I know I did, like thinking of myself as the warrior of light, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm like, I'm just a white blood cell. I'm like a neutral thing. That's like, okay, this is out of balance. We're bringing it back into balance this way. And you know, I don't know. Yeah. It's literally all stories. And it's like, if you think of yourself as a gamer, like a galactic gamer, and you go out and buy a game to play, you don't, if you can beat it in like 2 hours, what's the point? You know, whatever. Why do you want to challenge? Like, if you are a literal gamer, it's like, ooh, let's try this storyline or this storyline, or what about putting this layer on it, or this, you know, and it's really just, yeah, the Orion Wars and what we're playing out now is just a part of a different story. And now we can play something totally new. It's a whole new game. We just have to like, yeah, bypass the, oh, I'm a light warrior and fighting the darkness and stuff. And it did help, but like it helped me get out of those loops. But also now it's like, all right, that was fun for a second. Let's do something different.
Well, yeah. And now my brain is getting so spacey. I think I'm just like, again, when these strong messages come through, there's a part of me that's like, no. But
yeah, do it,
like,
Zaddy Cat. I believe in you.
Oh, they're saying that's how you also let go of the trauma of memories from those incarnations. And from that, for me, story I seem to be a little bit more connected to story than game. They're interchangeable, but so I just speak in terms of story. But like that story and that experience of going through the Orion Wars, it's like part of it is like just disconnecting from the so-called reality of it, you know. It's like allows you to just let go of those really heavy emotions, which doesn't mean that there's no time spent processing those or whatever. I don't know who I'm speaking to right now or what stage they're at in their journey, because there's definitely a lot of processing emotions that goes on. But it's like this guiding principle for me. It has always been this thing that was like always, no matter what I had to go into, it was always there of it's all a story and everything is good and everything's love, everything's perfect just as it is, was always like what. So it's like it was something that I could just like have, even if I wasn't actively working from that perspective, and I had to go into like a real sense of separateness from someone else to be able to like end my relationship with them and be like, this isn't doing me any good and I need to end this relationship. And I had to be like, I am mad at you and have a story about you. I still had that like tiny corner of my mind that was like, remember, and it like helped guide the path. And that's not like, it's not to say it's easy. It's not to say that prevented me from spending like months and months in those stories, right? Like I'm not saying like I was like, whoa, it's so but it was just like this little guiding like lighthouse light of like, that's the ultimate story that gets us into the version of reality that we want to be in. So that was,
well, that's how we move forward into this little, from Star Wars into Star Trek. It's like we're again playing out a different story, but we need to leave behind, not forget, but like integrate it as part of our history, those Star Wars or whatever, but continue. Like we're evolving into these new characters and different game story, whatever, character playing. Anyway,
totally. And that's why because we were going to talk about something else today, and then I was like, I gotta, like the thing started coming through too. It was like, remember to talk about why I use the term threshold guardians for things that come up. Even if, sometimes it's helpful for me to use other terms like programming or propaganda or indoctrination or anything. All of those ultimately for me are threshold guardians. If you're approaching a threshold of change, so you're the game that we've designed collectively that you are also like the prime navigator of, will throw up threshold guardians to be like, are you sure? Are you sure you're ready? And sometimes it's for a very good reason, because you're not ready to pass that threshold yet, and the threshold guardians are too strong and
Protect you.
They protect you, and you gotta wait until you are ready to cross that threshold. But sometimes they're there to be like, booga booga booga, we're gonna be really intense, so that you can be like, no, I still don't buy into you. And then it, like, once you clear through, you just feel even more of a deep sense of like conviction that from then on the threshold guardian just has less and less and less power over you.
Yeah. I know we kind of gave an example last time of like a busy mom or something trying to get time on her own, and like if she scheduled a vacation away or whatever, and then the threshold guardians in that instance would be like her kids having a meltdown, or some crisis that comes up that makes her feel like she should stay at home, or blah 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 blah. It's going to be huge triggers, or even a bunch of small triggers, or whatever it like fears, and you're going to feel anxiety or the stress or the fear or whatever. And it's like, do you continue to say, okay, this is not real, I'm going to keep going with where my original intention is to like do this vacation for the busy mom, or whatever it is for you, jumping into the feeling of safety when your sense of security is threatened, like, which is what I've been going through mostly these past few. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a big one, or still kind of is. And I can feel those triggers right now. And I just keep sitting here like, okay, breathe. This is not real. I am safe. I am loved. I'm supported. Like, I just keep saying it, and I make it through another day, and it's okay. And like that kind of stuff, but it does not feel easy in the moment. I think it will get easier. I don't think it's going to be this hard. Like, as hard as it was for us, I don't think it's going to be as hard for other people, which I'm so fucking grateful for, because I don't wish that on anyone else. I want it to be easy. I want it to be, like, it's still going to be an energy exchange with these threshold guardians. It's like, you're still going to have skin in the game. You're going to feel it, but it's not going to be torture. Like it's felt for, I don't think it's going to be torture. It's just going to,
and
you leave behind stuff. Like when you die, like you transform, the old version of yourself dies, and you become this new person. And it's not like you've forgotten the old person. Again, like the Star Wars history, it's like all of versions of you are your history, and you're just like becoming this monster Hulk, awesome, like a big, powerful being, which is your true self. You've just been squished down into this one storyline, and now you're like expanding into these multiple storylines, and you're like, oh, I can be all of these things, but you must pass through the threshold guardians first. And that's just how we set up this game. So thanks for bringing that up.
They were showing it to me too as an actual video game, where they were like, if you were going through the video game and then suddenly, like in the movie Free Guy, like you're like, oh, like I have sentience, but you actually are like, oh, I'm like, the big me is like actually programming this game. And then you are like navigating, and so that's helping you navigate through the game in a new way, and like reach new levels that you never could before, and do new things that you never could before. And then you see someone that's programmed in as an enemy in the game, like you might like, sorry, it's coming through a bit. So it's like you there might be times where to clear an obstacle, you would want to be like, okay, this person is an obstacle, so I'm going to just do it this way.
Yeah.
But you want to keep that other, you don't want to let go of that guiding principle. You don't want to like forget that you're the one programming the game, and be like, oh my God, this, this like person with a machine gun or whatever is like an actual enemy or whatever. Yeah. What was the other thing? Was that what had to do with what you were just saying? Threshold guardians. Oh, Yes, threshold. Oh, yes. And also it's really interesting because there's people who in this incarnation do not take that path at all. And they'll have something like a near-death experience and then come back with it. And they're just like, oh, we're all one. I was like instantly in the energy of we're all one. And I was like, why am I worried? They're all one. There's no, everything is love. And it just completely changes their perspective forever. So I'm also curious about like what other forms we're going to see it taking. But the threshold guardians, I think, yes, sorry.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say, like, I'm glad you brought up the near-death experience thing, because especially with the necromancer thing and the Pluto thing, and Pluto's moving into Aquarius, which is going to be a big thing. Anyway, I just feel like that energy is here because maybe more people are going to have near-death experiences. And that's how the ease, not that I'm not saying a near-death experience is easy. I'm just saying, like, as far as like a quick slash, thing, like that would really, I don't know. It just popped into my head to share. So I thought,
or it might just be like more ketamine or that kind of thing type,
or
where it's like, woo.
Yeah. DMT sprayed on all of our food or something. No, I'm just kidding. In the water supply.
So, okay. But this is the thing. So there was some stuff we wanted to talk about as threshold guardians that were coming up for me, because in this body, these changes that I've been experiencing where my new body is very much coming online, and like if symptoms appear, I can just deny them and then they'll disappear. I didn't realize what like deeply rooted story I had around my body and my menstrual cycle, my reproductive organs that I've been carrying around with at like a deeper layer, even as I was shedding, like, oh, this aspect of the body isn't real. This aspect, I had been carrying around really, intense programming stories. So I had, in order to like, I was talking it through with you the other day. It was just like, it's a psyop. It's a psyop. Well, everything that the stories we have right now about like what it is to menstruate and to give birth, and how uncomfortable and painful, and how that's a natural or even an unnatural but increasingly common experience, is all just a story. And a period can be whatever ultimately can be whatever you want it to be. And that doesn't mean that disentangling yourself from that physical story is an easy process and stuff. But it was like I had just really internalized, because I also knew that it's like my body wanted me to be more in tune with the rhythms of the earth and the moon and with my own cycle. So I kept bringing these like really unpleasant symptoms and stuff into that, as though they were some kind of essential truth, other than just like a story that I've been learning my entire life and hearing my entire life over and over again. And those are that form of threshold guardian that's just like common sense or passed down at all levels of society, from like scientific to casual to fail, is very huge, tricky to like clear and uproot and like let go of. We were talking about menopause, but you did all the stories about menopause, the fear-based stories around menopause and stuff. I had like, I'm having a period right now where I'm not actually having a period.
I was just going to say, you should finish that story about how like you basically had the period in the dream or whatever, and like had that release, because that was part of the thing where you were like, I need the release, and what do I do if I don't have that or whatever?
So my story, which was tied to all kinds of relationship to my feminine energy and all sorts of stuff about being in a human body, was that my period was I had very painful, heavy cramps, like that would make me throw up from pain, very heavy period. It would like wipe me out for a long period of time, and it would have this excruciating buildup, so that really it was dictating my life, where it could be like anywhere like 2-week buildup and then like a week of period, so that I had like maybe a 5-week cycle. So it gives me 2 weeks of like feeling like normal and energized. And so it was a way to constantly throw barriers around momentum in my life and around mood stability. And so since the beginning of my awakening, I've been working like, all right, time to tackle this. But while I was in the healing part, doing all the shadow stuff, it was really playing out through my period. Like it was playing out energetically as I was working through things. So it was all over the place. So I continued to have some periods that were really intense. And then finally over the spring, I was like, oh, I feel an anchoring in. Each one was because it was getting really regular and like 28 to 29 days. And the periods were getting lighter and the cramps were lessening. And the PMS, which is a totally nonsense term, was clearing. Oh, by the way, the one clue that I had was that if I would travel and get my period, it would like not show up sometimes, or it would be very light and easy, and it was like to like facilitate. So it was like a little like, here you go, see,
oh, it's possible.
There's a hole in this story, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was like, woohoo. And then we got to this cycle, which is like leading to the very end of this period of integration that I've been. And suddenly I'm doing all this stuff with other symptoms, and then the PMS came, and I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna buy into PMS. So then it would go away, but then I would get panicky because I was like, I don't have any way of knowing if my period comes other than like 1 to 2 weeks of really intense PMS. So then it would like be like, okay, you want me back? So then I would start to feel PMS, and then I'm like, no, I don't want to feel this way anymore. So then it would go away, but then the period wasn't coming, and I was getting that buildup feeling, and I was like starting to freak myself out. I was like, oh my God, we're in for like a mega period. If it's like a 40-day cycle, I don't want to like,
yeah.
And then you really helped me see that, you were like, do you even have to like physically have your period? And I was really shook. I was like, what? And I was like, but what about the release, like the blessed release of once, like physical release of once it's over? And then, I had a dream where I was passing these houses where all these women were cutting off these parts of this. There's a tree that we have a lot of in Toronto, this linden tree, and I think it's pretty common in North America. It's like known for a really pungent, horrible smell when it spores and stuff. And everybody gets so sick of it. And so you
specifically said it smelled like sperm too, very male, energy, like, and we know that we plant male trees to cut down on whatever the fuck. And anyway, it's just a lot of male energy here. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Reeks of sperm. And so they were cutting off stuff. And at first I didn't know why. And then one of them like gave me this, like looked at me and was like, I'll tell you, like her glare was like, it's because we have had enough. We can't take it anymore of this freaking tree. So they were like destroying the tree by chopping it up. Like it was a really intense dream. And then you were like, no, it's like,
it's your release.
Yeah, that was like me having my period in my dream. And I won't say that I'm like giving myself the kindness to like work through this in a very bumpy way, because we had that chat and I was like, woohoo. And then later in the day, I was like, I'm feeling it again. And it's fine. But now it took away my panic. I was like, it's safe for me to not physically have my period this cycle. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to be stuck in this like eternal purgatory of this PMS feeling / like cramping feeling.
this isn't a huge example of threshold guardian stuff that you might be coming across yourself when you are, when we talk about threshold guardians, this is the kind of shit we're talking about. So
and that's why it's so good
joke,
to unplug from things, because even if you're unplugged from the news, but you're on social media, there's people talking about all the things all the time, and everybody is in a really big sharing mode, which has a lot of benefits and stuff, but like, they're sharing unfiltered beliefs and emotions and raw stuff that can just re-trigger a story for you. So if you know, if people are sharing about stuff related to their physical bodies, and it's like anchoring this in this feeling that the physical body is so real and there's nothing that can be done, and it's not, you can't change certain things, and you just can't change that. What we were talking about with aging, how people like start programming themselves to age, like around a certain age, they'll start being like, well, I'm getting up, I'm no longer a kid anymore, am I? Or and like, and like, welcome to your fort, like those kinds of things. It's just like, like literally bot speak, sorry to be rude, but like stuff that you to acclimatize yourself to a story around aging and degeneration that is like not at all the only story that's possible.
Well, it's good that you said bot speak, because this is programming code. If you're thinking of this as a game, and it helps you to think of it like video game stuff, it's like everybody's been programmed to speak a certain way or think a certain way or whatever it is. And this is how you break the matrix, how you break the code. It's like you insert the antivirus or whatever, you know, like this is why I think of myself as a white blood cell. It's just like, this program no longer serves this game. We need to make a new program. It's not even like good or bad. It's like, just let's play a new game because that's what we wanted to play. So how do I play this new game? I need to insert the antivirus, which means thinking in a different way, acting in a different way, believe it, like knowing it in your body. So that reprograms, you know, the hologram of the matrix, whatever it is. And that's what helps other people pick up on that antivirus and take it in for themselves. And it changes the whole thing.
Totally. And I was so deep in my period story that I had to call it I had to go back to my old things about like how societal structures are like, will program us to believe stuff. I had to go into that bit of like us them stuff in order to like be like, no, don't buy the story. But the reason why I wouldn't suggest staying in that story of psyops and stuff like that is because then that's just dragging you into another story where you're paying your attention, and all your energy starts to get drained by getting really mad at institutions or the media or whatever. And then suddenly you're in a story about that you don't want to be in, because it's just going to drain your energy. I mean, sometimes it's a part of the process, but like, you don't want to stay in there forever, you know, because it's very, it can easily
it'll keep you in
and feed other stories of like disempowerment. Like, oh, I'm just a little guy. How could I ever like, if our education system never changes, how will we get out? You know, like, but whereas the things just change on their own, and we don't have to spend so much time worrying about the details of how they change. But that leads me to this other news update that the National Geographic always sends me the little seeds,
the nuggets,
which is the science following our shift in consciousness, which is now there's new studies and new tools about how we analyze proteins of like old ancient samples and stuff. And they're showing that different stories around like hunter-gatherer stuff, and they're showing that women regularly hunted in like close to 80% of hunter-gatherer societies. And they hunted big game, and they had their toolkits, they had their favorite weapons. Grandmas were the best hunters of the village. Total shift in paradigm coming through.
Well, and that's what we were talking about when I was talking to you about the period,
and that's how the game
aging
changes.
And like, exactly. It's like, we know, I mean, this is a perfect example of what I was talking about yesterday, where it's like women actually get stronger during menopause or while they age or whatever. And we don't talk about that because that's not part of the program that we're supposed to be playing. And it's like, that's ridiculous. Like, and I'm glad that, thank you, National Geographic, for giving us the seeds of this. So that's how the consciousness changes. Like, it comes into the media in this way, where it's like a respected science article or whatever, and it's not some woo woo whatever person saying, but it's like this.
Yeah,
I mean, it starts that way, but you know, it becomes integrated in a more full, you know, picture type way. So.
Yeah. And so
yeah, grandmas.
That's why I always say, like, most of us aren't, maybe we have one aspect where we are going to get more into the nitty gritty of building that bridge from point A to point B. But a lot of times, if you're listening to this podcast, you are at a very meta level. You're meant to operate at a very meta level and not worry about the details. And then, as it's always been for me, it's the thing has already happened, and you just end up on a timeline where there's already the shift, and there's already news of some important change happening, and you don't have to be like trying to put restrictions on it by using your human brain to be like, but how could this possibly work? You know, we had that happen with in Canada with the legalization of weed, and now mushrooms, and also in certain states too, where they've been working on it forever, and suddenly there was this huge leap. And I was like it makes sense to me, because I was never, you know, going to City Hall and going to the red tape and being like, at best it'll be another 15 to 20 years because this has to happen, and this, it's like I had no clue. So now suddenly I'm like, oh, they already legalized it here, and they've already started like having mushroom clinics and all this stuff. It's like, it already happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's so nice. It's like, it's such a relief. Speaking of Atlas and like the weight of the world on your shoulders,
take it off. Yes,
it's like, take that weight of the world off your shoulders and just let cool multi-dimensional reality do its cool thing, and like whisk you occasionally onto very drastically different timelines. So you're just like, how did that happen? Oh, we just had one. Bed Bath & Beyond was closing all of its stores in Canada. And so they were having these huge sales in the spring, and I kept wanting to hop on one to get some new sheets, and then I never had the energy. Cut to last night, Mike's like, why is Bed Bath & Beyond reopening their stores? And it's like, right, doesn't make any sense. The key is not to overthink it or get into the house, you know. It's like, okay, it makes absolutely no corporate sense at all, and completely feels like a timeline jump, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna like obsess over it.
Well, that's another perfect thing. I don't think people can hear this enough as they're going through the awakening. You cannot logic and reason your way through this ascension stuff. It's like you have to feel it, and when shit doesn't make sense, you just have to be like, okay, because the more you spend in your mental brain, I'm not saying logic and reason don't have a place, but not this. You're like,
not for psychedelic multi-dimensional stuff. That's where you got to really give the brain and be like, my little brain can't possibly understand the intricacies of this. So
it's fine.
Blow some
I'm surrendering to the
my
universe.
Crevices and go party.
Brilliant.
But and also, again, I'll put it out there. We had a whole episode where we were talking about our magical powers that had come online. And it's like, I was saying how this was something that I originally heard on Noah Lampart's podcast about synchronicity, about 6-dimensional energy is like, you don't have to learn something. You just get activated by like being around someone who can do it or hearing about it. And with all the body stuff, we were talking about the Mandela effects, and then I was saying the thing about the mosquito not itching, and then you were like, I did it with a mosquito. So
I totally did. I've gotten so many mosquito bites, and I even have poison ivy. I'm like, oh my God. And I felt the poison kind of like sinking in a little bit that one night. And I was like, what if I just imagine it ejecting instead of sinking in? And I just kept like, nope, it's not in, it's ejecting. And I'm not itching any of my stuff. Every so often I'll get up and then be like, oh, nope. And then, so I do kind of, again, with the threshold guardians, this is like a milder version of it, but it's like, are you going to itch, or are you going to just be like, that's not, but our episode with all those superpowers.
It flipped back for a second. I was like, I see you. And I was like, but I don't care. It's fine. And then it was gone again. I was like,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I had
I
one
still
too. I
don't
think
love
I got like
mosquitoes,
a
but
horsefly, or it was a horsefly or a backfly bite on my
ugh,
back. And that one just never did anything. I just was like, nah. And it just never
what happened?
did. And I think it just disappeared too, like really fast. So
Nice. Nice.
yeah. These are always meant to empower, not disempower. Like
Yeah.
if these things aren't locking in, that's just, don't worry about it. So
It'll
it,
come.
it'll happen
Come.
when it
Don't worry.
happens, and you don't need
Yeah.
to like. I've done that too. I've done like
Me too.
I mean, or it'll happen once and then I'll obsess about that for like 3 years. Well, it happened once, so why can't it's like, talk about being an energy vampire to yourself, right?
Oh my God. Good point. Yeah. Dang. Dang. This was a good one. Shit. You have anything else you want to talk about? Oh my God. This was packed.
That was jam-packed-a-roo. Yeah, let us know if you're experiencing any body weirdness, body fluidity, and happy trails, happy summer trails, happy 13th.
Oh, happy 13th.
Yeah.
I love this day. Love
Love you,
the
space
day.
kittens.
Love
See
you,
you soon.
space kittens.